Some voices are just echoes of the past. Others are a warning from a place that shouldn't exist. The deadliest are the ones that sound like home and are waiting for you to answer. There are places in this world that have been deliberately forgotten, erased from maps and memories alike. They exist as wounds in the landscape, scarred over by time and bureaucracy. Their stories sealed beneath layers of concrete and classified documents. One such place is the Blackwood Research Annex, a concrete leviathan swallowed by the Alaskan wilderness just outside Fairbanks. Built in an age of paranoia and brutalist architecture, its windowless facades stare out into the birch and spruce forests like the blank eyes of a skull. For 32 years, it has been a tomb officially decommissioned, its purpose relegated to whispers and redacted files. But inside this tomb, in its northeast wing, there is a specific point of infection, a focal point of the silence. It is a door, a simple steel door, cold to the touch even in memory. Below a tarnished brass handle, a plaque bears a single designation, scratched into the metal as if by a trembling hand: Room 44. There are no warnings, no biohazard symbols, no clearance levels, no hint of the horrors it once contained. Just a number. Yet, for the dwindling few who worked at Blackwood before its sudden closure in 1993, that number was a commandment. You did not speak of that corridor. You did not let your gaze linger on the impossibly thin seam of darkness beneath the door. And you never, ever asked what was inside. The official story for the facility's shuttering was a lie. A comfortable fiction about structural instability and obsolete protocols. The truth, buried in internal memos pried loose by Freedom of Information requests, spoke a different language. It was a language of failure and terror, using phrases like containment breach, subject divergence, and the one that truly chills the blood: non-recoverable perceptual contamination. The door to room 44 wasn't just locked, it was entombed. The entire corridor was filled with concrete, a desperate final act of quarantine. For 3 decades, the secret held. Until February of 2024, a routine infrastructure failure, a burst pipe deep in the subbasement, forced a reluctant contractor crew to break the seal of the annex. They drilled through the east wall of the lower level, expecting to find corroded plumbing. They did not find water. They found a voice. Tucked behind a rusted ventilation duct, preserved like a sacred relic, was a reel-to-reel audio tape. It was meticulously wrapped in oilcloth, then sealed in a vacuum-packed plastic sleeve that crumbled to dust upon contact with the air. A single label, written in neat, scientific script, marked it with a date: June 17, 1992. This recording, now a ghost in the machine of a government archive, is cataloged under restricted access file hash BK44 Omega. It begins, as many old tapes do, with the sound of magnetic hiss and crackling static. But then a voice emerges from the noise, a woman's voice. It is calm, professional, measured. But the sound is wrong. The acoustics are impossible. Not an echo, not muffled, but compressed, as if the sound waves themselves are being crushed by an immense, invisible pressure. The voice identifies herself. This is Dr. Eleanor Voss, lead neurophenomenologist for Project Threshold. Subject has entered chamber 44 at 14:03 hours. Baseline vitals are stable. EEG shows pronounced theta dominance. We are proceeding with Phase 3 sensory decoupling protocol. An exhaustive search of every known government database, from the Department of Energy to DARPA, yields nothing. There was no Project Threshold. A search for Dr. Eleanor Voss in academic circles comes up empty. She is a ghost, a name on a tape with no history. But archives are stubborn things. Tucked away in the payroll records of the University of Alaska Fairbanks, a phantom emerges. A doctor. Voss was indeed employed as a visiting lecturer in cognitive science from 1991 to 1992. Her specialty was listed with cryptic vagueness: perceptual anomalies in extreme isolation environments. Her campus office was never used. Her scheduled lectures were never given. She was a name on paper, drawing a salary for a job she never performed, while she worked on a project that didn't exist. The official blueprints of the Blackwood Annex depicted it as a Cold War signals intelligence station, later repurposed for atmospheric research, but declassified satellite schematics from 2019 revealed a secret, a floor that did not officially exist. Level Delta, a sub-basement hidden from all public records, and at its geometric center sat Room 44, a handwritten logbook. its pages warped by dampness, was recovered from a locked desk in the collapsed administration wing. It detailed the purpose of Level Delta. It housed something called the Resonant Chamber Array, 12 shielded rooms, but they weren't designed to contain sound, or radiation, or any physical substance. They were designed, the log claimed, to contain perception itself. The theory, scrawled in frantic, almost illegible cursive across sheets of yellowed graph paper, was a terrifying leap into the unknown. It proposed that human consciousness, under a precise bombardment of acoustic and electromagnetic frequencies, could be forced to phase out of our consensus reality. It wasn't about inducing hallucinations or triggering psychosis. It was about pushing a mind into a different, adjacent perceptual layer. A real place, just elsewhere. The final page of the theoretical notes contains a single sentence, underlined with such force that the pen tore through the paper. The subject does not return the same. The audio tape from 1992 continues, a cold testament to that truth. At 14:22 hours, Dr. Voss's calm voice returns, but now a thread of confusion has woven its way in. She reports a sudden, inexplicable drop in the ambient temperature inside room 43, from a stable 21 degrees Celsius to just 3 degrees in less than 90 seconds. The HVAC systems, she notes, are static. There is no physical cause. 15 minutes pass. Then at 14:37, the first true anomaly. Subject is speaking, Voss says, her voice tight, but his lips aren't moving. The audio feed is picking up coherent phonemes, yet the visual feed confirms complete facial stillness. There is a long pause on the tape. The only sound is a sharp intake of breath, a sound like thin glass cracking. Then a whisper. It's not the subject anymore. Miraculously, the visual record survived. A single VHS tape, housed in a fireproof safe, was found buried beneath the rubble of the control room. The footage is grainy, degraded, haunted by the decay of time. It shows a man in a plain gray jumpsuit, seated on a simple chair in the center of a circular chamber. This is Subject Theta-7. The walls are not concrete or steel. They are lined with a mosaic of interlocking hexagonal panels. The panels are not acoustic foam. They are a strange, bone-white ceramic. Embedded within them are faint, dark lines that look unsettlingly organic. Veins. They seem to pulse with a slow, faint, internal light, like the capillaries of some vast, sleeping creature. The camera is fixed on Theta-7. He stares directly forward, his expression blank. But his body is a symphony of discord. His eyes blink, but not in sync. The left eyelid closes slowly, then opens. Then the right, a nauseating reptilian rhythm. His hands rest on his knees, but his fingers twitch and dance to separate, opposing cadences, as if two different minds are vying for control of his nervous system. At 14:41, the light in the chamber flickers, but there are no light fixtures, no bulbs, no tubes, no visible source of illumination. The light itself seems to emanate from the very walls, a soft white glow that now begins to shift. It drains away, dimming to a deep, sickly amber, then bleeds into a bruised, cancerous violet. And then something happens that breaks the laws of physics. Subject Theta-7 shadow, a dark stain on the floor, detaches from him. As he slowly, deliberately turns his head to the left, his shadow remains fixed, pointing, elongated towards the sealed chamber door. It has become an independent thing. At 14:48, he stands. The motion is fluid, yet utterly unnatural. He walks to the wall, his unmoving shadow trailing behind him like an anchor. He raises a hand and presses his palm flat against one of the hexagonal panels. The camera zooms in. The ceramic surface yields to his touch. It doesn't crack or bend, it softens. It gives way like living tissue. And from the depression his hand makes, something glistens from within the wall. Not a liquid, not light. Something that refracts the room's violet glow in impossible, fractured angles, like a tear in the fabric of spacetime itself. Dr. Voss's voice erupts on the tape, the clinical calm shattered into pure, raw panic. Initiate recall sequence. Shut it down. Now, a man's voice murmurs in the background, but he doesn't respond to her command. The audio captures the frantic clicking of switches, a rising tone of electronic feedback, and then nothing. The next entry in the recovered logbook is dated June 18, 1992. The handwriting is a mess, a barely controlled scrawl. Recall failed. Subject remains inside. Audio feed is active, but video is corrupted. Recommend immediate and permanent quarantine of level Delta. The final page of the log is stained with a yellowish-brown substance later identified by lab analysis as human bile. A single sentence is clawed into the paper. It learned how to open the door from the other side. After that day, no one ever officially entered room 44 again. No recovery mission was launched for Theta-7. No team was sent to deactivate the equipment. The silence from the administration was absolute, according to a heavily redacted incident report, later leaked from the CDC's Division of Unusual Pathogens. All 12 personnel assigned to level Delta were immediately placed on indefinite medical leave for off-site psychological observation. None of them ever returned to duty. The official records stop there, but unofficial ones paint a darker picture. Within 6 months, 3 of the scientists had committed suicide, each leaving behind notes filled with drawings of hexagons and rambling prose about the wrong angles. A fourth, a technician named Alan Riker, simply vanished. He was being held in a secure psychiatric ward in Anchorage. At 3:17 a.m. on November 4, 1992, a silent security camera recorded him standing up from his bed, walking calmly to the solid concrete wall of his room, and simply walking through it. He was never seen again. But the tape, the artifact found by the contractors, it kept recording. Long past the end of the experiment, long past the panicked flight of the staff. At 1:03 in the morning, a new voice speaks from the chamber. It sounds like Subject Theta-7, but the voice is distorted, stretched, layered, as if 3 people are speaking the exact same sentence at infinitesimally different speeds. The words it speaks are directed not at the empty control room, but at anyone who would ever listen to the tape. "You think you're watching me," it rasps, the voice a chorus of broken glass. "But I'm watching you watching me." Silence descends again for 12 agonizing minutes. When the sound returns, it is not a voice. It is the sound of breathing. A wet, rhythmic, guttural sound, like a drowning man pulling air through waterlogged lungs. And beneath it, a low-frequency hum begins to build, a vibration so low it's felt more than heard. A frequency analysis later identified the hum at a precise 17 hertz, the so-called ghost frequency, known to induce feelings of profound dread, paranoia, and the unshakable sensation of a hostile presence in an empty room. It is the resonant frequency of the human skull. In 2011, long after the government had abandoned the site, a team of urban explorers, chasing online rumors, broke into the Blackwood Annex. They live-streamed their entire expedition. The archived footage, still floating in dark corners of the internet, is a harrowing document. It shows them finding their way down to the forgotten level Delta. They find the concrete-filled corridor, but there's a crack, a fissure from years of frost heaves just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. They find the door, room 44, and the door is no longer sealed. It hangs slightly ajar. Inside, the chamber is a barren concrete cylinder. The hexagonal panels are gone. The chair is gone. There is no sign any experiment ever took place. But one of the explorers, a young woman named Mara Lynn, leans into the doorway, sniffing the air. Her voice is a whisper on the live stream's audio. It smells like old blood and static. She freezes. Her eyes widen in the beam of her headlamp. She turns back to the camera, her face a mask of pure terror. "It just whispered my name," she says, her voice trembling. "It used my mother's voice." The live stream cuts out. An hour of static, and then the feed went dead. Mara Lynn was discovered 3 days later, wandering aimlessly on the Dalton Highway, 200 miles north of the Annex. She had no shoes, no coat in the sub-zero temperatures. Her skin was covered in a network of intricate red traceries, like a living circuit board, a condition that baffled every dermatologist who examined her. She was catatonic, unresponsive. She only spoke once, weeks later, when a nurse was changing her Roman 4 drip and asked her what happened in that room. Mara looked past her, at the fluorescent light fixture on the ceiling, and said with perfect, chilling clarity, "Room 44 isn't a place, it's a mouth." The final segment of the 1992 tape was almost dismissed as useless noise. 30 seconds of what sounds like pure white static. But a curious technician at the archival facility ran it through a spectral analyzer. A pattern emerged from the chaos. It wasn't random. It was a repeating sequence of tones. When slowed down to a fraction of its original speed, the pattern perfectly matched the harmonic structure of human neural oscillations during deep REM sleep. the brainwaves of a dreamer. And buried deep within that static, almost entirely masked by the noise, was a single, desperate whisper. "Let me out. I'm still me." Forensic linguists at the University of Oregon were tasked with analyzing that phrase. The vocal stress patterns, the pitch, the cadence, they did not match the baseline recordings of Subject Theta-7. They were a perfect match for Dr. Eleanor Voss. At some point after the experiment collapsed, after everyone else had fled, she had gone back. She had entered the chamber herself. But why? The official logs offered no clue. The answer came from a single, torn page found tucked inside a broken oscilloscope in the control room. It was from her personal journal. Theta-7 didn't break, she wrote. He adapted. He's not trapped in there. He's inviting others in. I have to understand how. For Daniel. For June. A quick check of public records solved the tragic puzzle. Daniel Voss, age 6, had died of sudden, unexplained encephalopathy on June 3, 1992, just 2 weeks before the experiment. The official cause of death was listed as neurological dissolution of unknown etiology. His declassified medical records contain a terrifying footnote. In his final hours, his brain activity began to emit a powerful, coherent 17 Hertz resonance. The contractor who found the tape in 2024 quit his job the next day. He told his foreman he couldn't sleep, that he was hearing whispers from the static of his truck's radio. A week later, his wife woke up in the middle of the night to find him standing in their bedroom. He had used a mixture of coffee grounds and his own blood to paint the walls, from floor to ceiling, with interlocking hexagons. He has not spoken a coherent word since. He just stares at mirrors, at puddles, at the dark screen of a powered-down television, his mouth forming silent words for a reflection only he can see. The United States Department of Energy has since reclassified the Blackwood Annex. It is now a permanent containment zone. No one is allowed in. No demolition will ever be considered. A 10-foot chain-link fence, topped with razor wire, surrounds the property. Warning signs in 3 languages advise against trespassing, and a single, motion-activated speaker mounted on a pole plays a constant stream of white noise, 24 hours a day. A futile attempt to drown out a sound that doesn't travel through the air. But locals, hunters and truckers who pass by on the remote highway, tell a different story. They say if you park your car on the shoulder of the road after midnight, kill the engine and just wait in the crushing silence of the Alaskan night, you'll eventually hear it. A low, 17 Hertz hum that seems to vibrate in your bones. And then a voice. It will call your name, and it won't come from the derelict building. It will come from the speaker of your phone, from your car's Bluetooth system, from the digital assistant you carry in your pocket. Room 44 was never about containment. That was the project's greatest, most arrogant mistake. It was about invitation. The chamber doesn't trap you inside its walls. It teaches you how to see the doors that are already there, everywhere, in every reflective surface, in the shimmering heat off asphalt, in the fleeting afterimage when you close your eyes. And once you learn to see one of those doors, the thing on the other side learns to see you back. The last known entry in Dr. Voss's personal journal was recovered from a safe deposit box she rented under an alias. It contains only 2 lines, written in shaky, labored block letters, the writing of a person whose hand no longer feels like their own. It's not hallucination, it's translation. Below that, a final warning circled 3 times in red ink. Don't answer when it uses your child's voice. To this day, the door to room 44 remains ajar, just a crack, just wide enough for something to slip out, or for something, wearing the face of someone you love, to slip in.
Sarah.
And if you have ever, even once, heard your name whispered in a room you thought was empty, you might not be alone. You might already be standing in the doorway.